That's a letter written by the Prime Minister of Israel to members of the United States Congress, telling them exactly how to restructure America's military. And Congress, they're doing it. They buried it inside the NDAA, Section 224, and they hoped you'd never find it. I'm Brandon Mace. This is Political Lens. Here's what we're breaking down today. 1. What Section 224 of the NDAA actually says, and why it goes far beyond anything we've ever given a foreign military. 2. The specific provisions that hand over America's most sensitive technology, including AI, quantum systems, and biotech, to a country that has never joined the Biological Weapons Convention. 3. Who fought to stop it, who killed the effort, and what it means for American sovereignty going forward. This story is breaking right now, and the mainstream media is almost completely silent. Let's establish what we're dealing with. The National Defense Authorization Act is the annual must-pass defense bill. Every year, Congress packages $800+ billion in military spending into one bill that has to pass. And every year, they know it, so they bury things in it. On May 26, 2026, the House Armed Services Committee released its version of the FY 2027 NDAA. Deep inside, on page after page of legislation most members never read, is Section 224, the United States-Israel Defense Technology Cooperation Initiative. On its face, sounds like a routine partnership provision. The reality is something completely different. Netanyahu wrote a letter to Republican Congressman Marlin Stutzman, as you can see it right here on the screen. In it, he said, and I want you to hear this word for word, "The time has now arrived for us to move from aid recipient to partner." Think about what that means. The Prime Minister of a foreign country wrote a letter to a sitting U.S. congressman telling him how to rewrite American defense law. And AIPAC, the most powerful foreign policy lobby in Washington, applauded Section 224 publicly immediately after it dropped. This wasn't organic legislation. This was engineered, and it got through committee. When Democratic Congressman Khanna introduced an amendment to remove Section 224 entirely, he said this: "Everyone in America, whether you're a Republican, an independent, or a Democrat, says that we need to tell Netanyahu that America calls the shots, not the Prime Minister of any other country." The amendment failed in a voice vote, not even recorded on the roll call, so no member of Congress had to go on record. So what does Section 224 actually do? Let me break this down because the details are where it gets truly alarming. Section 224 establishes a Pentagon executive agent, a dedicated official at the Department of Defense whose sole job is to synchronize military cooperation between the United States and Israel. Not advise, not review, synchronize. Under this executive agent, the two militaries would engage in joint research and development, co-production of weapons, technology licensing agreements, joint ventures across defense industries. But here's where the sovereignty issue becomes undeniable. Section 224 specifically lists the technology domains covered: artificial intelligence, quantum systems, autonomous weapons, directed energy, cyber infrastructure, and biotechnology. These are not just weapons. These are the technological foundations of America's national security for the next 50 years. The same technologies we have only ever shared with Australia and the United Kingdom under the AUKUS Treaty, two formal treaty allies. Israel is not a treaty ally. Israel does not have a mutual defense treaty with the United States. And yet, Section 224 would give Israel a level of military-industrial integration higher than any NATO country on Earth. But the most explosive provision? 2 words: network integration and data fusion. In plain English, American military data becomes Israeli military data. Our intelligence networks, our weapons systems, our battlefield communications, fused, synchronized, accessible. Did you hear that? The United States military would be sharing live data with a foreign military. and there is no mechanism in Section 224 to shut it off. Now I want to talk about something the mainstream media will absolutely not cover. Israel has a documented history of espionage against the United States. This is not a conspiracy theory. Jonathan Pollard, an American intelligence analyst, spied for Israel for years. He stole millions of classified documents. He was convicted. He served 30 years in federal prison. When he was released in 2020, he moved to Israel and was greeted as a hero on the tarmac by Benjamin Netanyahu himself. That happened. That is the country we are about to fuse our military data networks with. And the biotech provision? The Arab Center, Washington, D.C., flagged something in their legal analysis that should stop everyone cold. Among the technology domains listed in Section 224 is biotechnology, biomanufacturing, and medical defense. Here is the problem with that. Israel has never joined the Biological Weapons Convention. That is the international treaty that prohibits nations from developing biological weapons. Nearly every country on Earth has signed it. Israel has not. And yet, under Section 224, we would share our most advanced biodefense research with a country that has never committed to the international framework prohibiting biological weapons development. The people who wrote this legislation knew these facts. They put the provision in anyway. And this is the part that should concern every American, whether you're MAGA, independent, or progressive. Because the concern about Section 224 is not partisan. The most vocal critics of this provision include Thomas Massie, Republican of Kentucky, and Representative Ro Khanna, Democrat of California. When MAGA conservatives and progressive Democrats are saying the same thing, that America is being pulled into someone else's wars, you have to ask, who exactly is this legislation serving? A New York Times/Siena poll from mid-May found that 64% of Americans believed the decision to go to war with Iran was wrong. Only 30% supported it. A separate poll found that just 16% of Americans support giving Israel weapons without restrictions. 38% want to stop weapons transfers entirely. The American people, across party lines, are saying one thing, and Congress is doing the exact opposite. Why? Because Section 224 isn't just about defense technology. It's about political leverage. The Quincy Institute, a nonpartisan foreign policy think tank, identified something critical in their legal brief. By expanding co-production facilities on American soil, Israel gains something extraordinarily powerful: American jobs. Jobs in congressional districts. Jobs that members of Congress will defend because their constituents depend on them. In other words, if Section 224 passes, the Israeli defense industry doesn't just get our technology, it gets leverage over the American political system. Members of Congress in those districts become permanent defenders of the relationship, regardless of what Israel does overseas. And here's the mechanism that makes it nearly impossible to reverse. This is buried in the must-pass NDAA. Once it passes, it transitions the U.S.-Israel relationship out of the annual appropriations process, where Congress votes on aid publicly every year, and into the opaque machinery of defense acquisition contracts. There is no annual vote. There is no public accountability. The oversight disappears. The relationship becomes permanent by design. This is not military aid. This is a structural merger. And once it's locked in, no future Congress, no future president can easily undo it. Here is where things stand right now. Section 224 passed out of the House Armed Services Committee. It's heading to the floor of the full House of Representatives. The Senate still has to weigh in. This is not yet law. But here's what I need you to understand. The reason they put this in the must-pass NDAA is because they know it couldn't survive a standalone vote. It couldn't survive public scrutiny. They needed to hide it, and they did. The question is whether the American people find out in time to make noise about it. That is exactly why this video exists. If you believe the U.S. military should answer to the American people and not to the Prime Minister of any foreign country, then this is the video to share. Not for political lens. For the same reason Thomas Massie, Ro Khanna, and a growing number of Americans on both sides of the aisle are raising the alarm. Drop your take in the comments below. What do you think Section 224 actually means for American sovereignty? I want to know where you stand, and we will see you on the next video right here on Political Lens.